Yo, what's up everybody? It's Drewberry and it's custom card review time. Now, I probably didn't time this very well because we're talking about power couples in this video. That was the challenge from last month actually, and at the time the power couple event was happening. And now we got X-Men versus Avengers event happening, and it's a bit all over the place. But anyways, we're going to talk about power couples. I think it's a very interesting keyword to explore. It'd be cool if it was somehow implemented in Marvel Snap in the future to have a little bit more synergy between characters in Marvel lore. But regardless, next challenge is going to be from March 17th to April 20th. I'm kind of doing them once a month. It just feels a little bit more sustainable for me because there is a lot more new cards coming out in Marvel Snap, a lot of patches and all these sorts of things. So this gives me a bit of breathing room in my content schedule. So I hope that's okay. And then the keyword this time around, we're going to go back to just normal stuff. I do have a very interesting idea for a future challenge, but this one's going to be with the keyword random. A lot of people had a lot of fun with this one last time we did it, even though it's really chaotic. But basically all you got to do is make sure that your card has the keyword random in its text. And the theme is Marvel. We're going to stick with Marvel once more because this is Marvel Snap. If you want to submit a card, you can join the Berryverse Discord, link in the description below. And you can create a custom card using that link right there. And if you want to like add some extra art flair to it or anything like that, go for it. Have fun. I love to see it. The creativity is always amazing. And then if you want to post one submission in the weekly challenge channel, please do so, but just try to avoid too much conversation in there. It's usually just 4 submissions so I can filter through them. And if you do choose to post a new card, just go back and delete your old one, please and thank you. Now, if you do choose to post a card, you have a chance to win a season pass. And this time around, it was Nate the Legend with the season pass win. And this was Nate's card, so it's Sylvie, 3/4 on reveal, randomly shuffle the abilities of cards in your hand. It's got the power couple with Loki, double Sylvie's power if Loki's out on the board. Very cool. Now, Nate won this just from submitting a card. That's all you got to do. You submit a card and you're good to go, and you have a chance to win, and it's just randomly chosen. Doesn't matter if it's a good card, bad card, doesn't matter. You have a random chance to win a season pass. So Nate, I will hit you up on Discord and let you know if you want, this month's or if you want next month's season pass. It's all good. You decide. Okay, now if you're not familiar with power couples, the way the event was working was when a card was out on the board and then the other power couple would receive a benefit. And it didn't really matter if that card was in the hand or deck or on the board. Now there's going to be interesting situations here, a lot of creative applications for this keyword. So rather than explaining it, let me just show you some of the winners and explain it through those cards. And we're going to kick it off with the card that I came up with, and essentially mostly what it is Weapon H, but I want to explain how we get there. So you got the power couple of Wolverine and Hulk. So how it's going to work is if Wolverine is out on the board and gets destroyed while Hulk is on the board. So it's if possible, and what I intended was Hulk can't be in the hand or in the deck or anything like that. Got to be on the board. So you got to find a way to cheat out Hulk early. I'm talking like wave or something like that. And then you destroy Wolverine on your side of the board. He will then merge to Hulk to create Weapon H, and that's kind of the power couple effect. I know it's a bit out there. I know a lot of them were just like, oh, they get +1 power each, but I thought this would be pretty fun to maybe create a deck, and I don't think it's overly strong. Weapon H is essentially that 4 power that Wolverine would have been, the 12 power from Hulk, combined into one card, 16 power. Now, it does have better scaling. It has +4 instead of Wolverine's +2, but I think the real benefit here is that if this card were to get destroyed, it's going to regenerate just like Wolverine did randomly to another spot on the board, which I think would be really fun. You could even see an animation where you get the claws coming out from Wolverine, but then also the board slamming effect of the Hulk, and it'd just be sick. But I think a really cool line of play would be you cheat out Hulk with like Wave or something like that, right? We need to find a way to cheat out the Hulk, but luckily there's a lot of ways we can do that with like Hope Summers, even look at Corvus Glaive. There's just a lot of potential to get Hulk out early. So we achieve that goal. We get the Hulk out early. Our opponent's looking at that Hulk like, ooh, that's a juicy Shang-Chi target. Now, because we played the Hulk, we probably have priority. I'm just going to go ahead and guess that we have priority. So what do we do on turn 6 when our opponent decides to try and snipe with Shang-Chi on the final turn? We throw down Wolverine and Carnage. Eat up the Wolverine, merges to the Hulk, becomes Weapon H. Shang-Chi comes out, smacks Weapon H in the face, but he doesn't care. He respawns somewhere else with +4 power. He's a 20 power Weapon H. I think that'd be pretty fun. Now, of course, he could still lose. He's going to randomly regenerate somewhere else, which isn't always the best. But I just thought flavor-wise, this would be a lot of fun. And I think a big thing about the power capsules is not to make broken cards. Yes, there's the added layered condition of having to play 2 cards, but I like when it's more so just a tiny buff, a tiny boost for having this lore synergy put together. And basically Weapon H, from what I understand, is they took all the stuff that makes Wolverine Wolverine and they injected it into the Hulk, and that became Weapon H. But I don't know much about the lore. That's just my brief understanding. Anyways, I thought this would be fun. I thought it'd be pretty cool to try and pull off. He also would just be like a token type card, and not a collectible card, but a token produced from a collectible card, or cards in this instance. Anyways, that was my idea. Let's get to the top 5. Number 5 is Inspector Husky's Genesis and Apocalypse. All right, so this is pretty cool. So I really like how a lot of people went with different styles of power couples. You're going to see all kinds of different applications here. And in this instance, we have Husky using a brand new card, a custom card made by Husky, and then the existing Apocalypse, but with the power couple tag. So this is how it's going to work. Genesis is a 2/2. After you discard a card, give the top card of your deck +1 power. Very interesting ability in its own right, honestly. Discard historically has enjoyed getting power. You could look at things like, good targets for Dracula discard, but also swarms getting that bonus power is always nice. So that's pretty cool. And it's kind of like Meek, but giving power to your next stuff. Then there's power couple. If Apocalypse gets discarded, give +2 power to the top card of your deck instead. So a little bit better ramp, or power ramp, that is. So Apocalypse, same ability. When you discard this, put it back with +4 power. But if Genesis is in play while this card gets discarded, get 6 power instead. So more ramp out of your Apocalypse for discarding cards, and Genesis is giving more power to the cards that you're drawing. So it just ends up being a lot of power scaling as you continue to discard cards, which is probably naturally what you want to do. I could see this being a play if you do happen to draw Apocalypse and Genesis, right? You throw out Genesis instead of, say, like Morbius or something like that, so that you could just get more value out of your draws as you go forward. It'd be a little bit tricky because in a lot of instances with this card, you want to use MODOK to discard your hand. So drawing isn't that important until, like turn 4 or 5 even, because you end up just playing like Dracula, MODOK, Apocalypse, or whatever else on that final turn so that Dracula can hit Apocalypse. But the +6 scaling is legit anyways. I think you maybe just throw out Genesis just so that your Apocalypse scales a little bit faster. But I thought this was a really good example of one of the ways you could use the power couple tag. So I really like this idea of blending a new card with an existing card and seeing what happens. All right, thank you, Husky. Let's get to number 4. Number 4, Axeloy's Kitty Pryde and Star-Lord. All right, so this is a really cool instance where we have 2 existing cards. Kitty Pryde and Star-Lord are just as you know them in the game today, except they have a new power couple ability, and that is where they share each other's abilities. So this is really cool. The idea being that now you could play Kitty Pryde, and if it hits a card opposing where your opponent played, just like Star-Lord does, you'll get that +3 power, and then at the end of the turn, bounce back to your hand, or rather at the start of every turn, right? Kitty Pryde's ability. So anyways, very interesting, because then the scaling gets just wild. Now we're talking +4 power scaling on Kitty Pryde. She was busted when it was +2. So this is probably absolutely broken. But of course you have to have both cards. And I imagine the way it would kind of work is you'd be playing Kitty Pryde normal. And when Kitty Pryde is on the board, Star-Lord then would have Kitty Pryde's ability, and then vice versa. Star-Lord's on the board, Kitty Pryde then has Star-Lord's ability. So I think the most ideal line would be to play Star-Lord at some point, just so that Kitty Pryde continuously has Star-Lord's ability. Because I don't think it would work if they're both in the hand. One needs to be in play at any given point in time for the other to receive the power couple ability. So there might be like some awkward instances of like needing to play the cards, or Kitty Pryde constantly bouncing back, which isn't ideal, or maybe Star-Lord bouncing back, which isn't ideal. But regardless, you're probably just going to get to some pretty wild power totals with both these cards. Even just like 2 triggers is good enough. But it does seem like a lot of fun to just constantly be guessing where your opponent's going to play. We've seen that in like Guardians of the Galaxy cards, but they don't really take off though as well as they should. And especially Star-Lord, man, he's just not really as good as he should be. Even though he can get to 5 power, it's just a little bit risky. So if you do whiff a couple times, at least they go back to the hand and you can try again. You're still paying the energy tax though, so that's maybe not ideal. That's where it balances out a little bit. Yeah, that 2/2 is going to bounce back to your hand so you can try again, but then you got to pay 2 energy again. So that might not be great either. Anyways, I thought it was a really interesting combination of abilities. So well done, Axeloy. And let's get to number 3. Number 3, GuiltyFlygon's Thanos and Death. Okay, so here's another one where we have the same cards we know from Marvel Snap, but with a new power couple ability. So Thanos, he's shuffling those Infinity Stones. Death, she's getting discounted for every card destroyed. But here's what happens with the power couple ability. So if Death is actively on the board, Thanos will now have the power couple ability of this card cannot be destroyed. That's pretty good, right? You throw them out, you don't have to worry about it. You probably had to destroy a bunch of stuff anyways to begin with, and now you're potentially 20 power Thanos is like no problem. He's not going to get hurt. Whereas with Death, if Thanos is out on the board and you play Death, destroy your other cards at Thanos's location. I thought that was pretty interesting. It's like kind of a ticking time bomb. So you have Thanos established on the board from like a wave play, or you're ramped into it, or lockjaw cycle, right? Which is probably disastrous. But regardless, then you discount a bunch of stuff via destroying. So you want to play your Death on that final turn or something along those lines. Well, now you throw out Death and boom, Thanos is going to destroy everything around you, which might not be good, especially if that's that final turn and you want that soul stone to stay there or whatever else. So there's almost in roundabout ways some anti-synergy, but then at the same time, maybe there's synergy because it could be like Bucky Barnes, or it could be Colossus, or it could be, I don't even know, Nova or something like that. So you could set up these cards that do want to be destroyed with a Death play, or even Nimrod. Imagine that. You got Nimrod and Thanos at a location, then you play Death, which you get the 12 power, and it triggers Thanos's destroy to destroy Nimrod, and you get 2 copies. Boom. It can be pretty fun, man. I think it's a very interesting combination. And you might be thinking like, oh, that's a little too difficult to pull off. Well, I would wager, I played a lot of Destroy Thanos. It's a very successful deck list. You can get Death to very cheap, very quickly because of the Infinity Stones and Killmonger. Just straight up that combination right there will get your Death to probably in like the 3-2 cost range, on top of anything else you can destroy with Venom, Carnage, etc. So I could see this working out pretty good. I don't know if it would have the boom or bust potential, like of really helping out a deck list, but maybe there's something there. Like I said, Nimrod seems like an excellent choice. So seems like a lot of fun. I would have a good time trying to play this combination in a Destroy Thanos list. So, and everybody knows Thanos and Death, lovers for life, man. And Death. Thank you, GuiltyFlygon. Let's get to number 2. Number 2, Longbones, Mary Jane, and Spider-Man. I love this one, and I really especially love Mary Jane as a card. I want this to be in Marvel Snap yesterday. It just seems like it would fit in move decks. So what is the card? A 1/1. When a friendly card moves here, give it +1 power. I love this. So I feel like one of the things about move is there's not enough cards that get a benefit from other cards moving to its location. You can look at a clear example of being Kraven, right? So Kraven gets scaling on himself, that +2 power scaling. But this is giving +1 power to any card that manages to move to Mary Jane's location. And I love that. You can move your Human Torch over, it gets +1. That's great for Torch. Think about Hercules synergies. You know, a card moves over, Hercules throws it away, it gets that +1 power from Mary Jane and gets tossed back. And then you could try and keep doing that over and over and over again with Heimdall. This is such a good card. I hope it joins. And then you got Spider-Man just being Spider-Man, moving another card, an enemy card from here to there. You know Spider-Man, same dealio, okay? But here's the power couple ability. When Spider-Man moves here, Mary Jane gets +2 power. So not only would Spider-Man move there and get +1 default from Mary Jane's ability, but the power couple ability would trigger, and Spider-Man would give Mary Jane +2 power. So she becomes a 1/3, and then giving that 1 power to Spider-Man. But also the power couple ability on Spider-Man is that when this moves to a location with Mary Jane, you get +2 power. So all of a sudden, you're getting +3 power on your Spider-Man, and you're getting +2 power on Mary Jane. That is a 5 power swing every time these two meet. They move together, which, you know what, is actually quite balanced, really, if you think about it, because it's going to be hard to split them up and do this over multiple turns or multiple times. This is probably only going to happen once in a match. So it's one of those things like where you look at Vulture by himself, every time he moves, he gets +6, and he's not taking over the meta anytime soon. So I don't think like +5 power for these cards just happening to meet would break the meta by any chance. It would be strong, don't get me wrong. It would be very good, a good swing play. But it's not going to break the meta. But there's still that really cool synergy of using Mary Jane at Hercules' location, Spider-Man bouncing in, bouncing out, bouncing in, bouncing out. That'd be sick. And you're also clogging your opponent's side of the board. Man, that'd be a fun deck. So I just really love these cards and this power couple ability. It's very interesting. It also doesn't just happen instantaneously. You have to do a little bit more work to make it work. Neither of these cards can really, well, I guess randomly Spider-Man could swing over to Mary Jane's location, but it's going to be a bit difficult with locations, what your opponent's doing, all those sorts of things. So yeah, I just love it. I love it so much. And I hope that Mary Jane joins the game someday. Let's go. Number 1, artists love. Oh man, artists, you always do a really good job with these cards. And this one I feel like is your best. Mostly for the ability. I think that just the creative idea behind this ability is fantastic. So Love is a 6/6 at the start of the game. Pair cards in your deck as +1 power couples. So you don't need no event. You don't need, power couple to even really be a keyword in the game. I could just see this existing tomorrow. Just being a new card joining Marvel Snap, because it's its own property. It's its own ability. So what does it do? Well, now all of the cards are randomly going to get paired up so that when you draw them, or you from the start of the game, you're going to look at your opening hand and you're going to see, oh, I got Black Panther in my hand. And who's the power couple? And it's going to show the little tag. Power couple. I want to say Nokia because that actually was, but let's say Sarah. Power couple Sarah. It's like, okay, great. Now, if I play Sarah on turn 5, and then I look to play Black Panther on turn 6, Sarah's going to get +1 power, and Black Panther's going to get +1 power. Fantastic. And then all the other cards in your deck are also going to have those power couples. And it's not going to be a given. You're not going to draw every single card and make that work and not be able to play every single couple. Right? You're always going to have cards remaining in your hand. So not always going to be fantastic, but it does kind of give your board a board-wide +1 power, sort of. So it's kind of akin to Blue Marvel, if you can manage to play the cards. And it doesn't have any like synergies with, Onslaught or anything like that, Mystique. So I actually think this ends up being maybe on the weak side, especially because it's a 6/6 body, which is not ideal to play either. But then there's other synergies like Infinity Stones. Oh no, another Thanos card. Oh geez. But it's true. Like you could play the Infinity Stones and you have more power couples available at your disposal. But then there's going to be the instance where it's like, oh no, the Soul Stone got paired with Thanos. And it's like, oh, okay, that's going to be a bit difficult to pull off, or maybe any other combination of cards that's a little bit tricky. But man, it just seems like a lot of fun. I could just see this working. And then there's cards that reap benefits from actually getting that power. So there's stuff like Brood, for instance, right? Just being a power couple, getting that +1 power, that seems pretty good. Also, but I don't even know if the Broodlings would get the +1. That's something technical that I'm not too sure about. Then there's, I don't know, Black Panther. Getting that +1 power is always nice to doubling up, because we do know that this activates in the hand, right? So if you do have the respective, other power couple on the board, then the one in your hand will instantaneously get that power couple ability, unless their beloved gets destroyed or is removed from the board. So you got to watch out for that, or even silence. So anyways, man, I just think that this is such a good standalone card. It just could join Marvel Snap. They could even be maybe +2 power couples, or maybe even the body being a little bit cheaper. It is a start of game effect, which is just great. So it is, I guess it is balanced, because Blue Marvel, you have to pay the 5 energy. This, you don't have to do anything. You just got to play the cards. You get buffs as you want, which is just cool. It's just really cool. Yeah, I think it's perfectly balanced. I think it'd be a lot of fun to join Marvel Snap. I would love to see a card like this. And then the other synergy I was thinking was Sarah. That's just to discount as many cards as possible, so that you can just play as many of those power couples as possible. So amazing variants. Oh my gosh, that one's killer. Looks like it's legit a Marvel Snap card. And this one as well pretty much looks like a legit like Barbie or something like that. Apparently Love is a character. I didn't know that. I had to look it up. And then like a classic comic style variant. Man, just unreal art, unreal ability, very creative take on power couple. So love it. Anyways, thank you so much to everyone who submitted a card. It was awesome going through all these power couples, because it's such a new thing to Marvel Snap. So to see some of the creativity growing off of the back of that new keyword that we never thought of was really cool. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I will catch you guys next time.